In 2019, Carowinds debuted Copperhead Strike, a mock launch coaster. Now, the ride is a fun supporting coaster, but it still leaves a few gaps in the park's lineup. Now, 2020 was a complete wash due to the pandemic, but this is a park that Cedar Fair obviously loves and will continue to expand. So, what's next for Carowinds? Let's take a look. To begin, let's look at what the park has in its current lineup. Standing king is obviously Fury 325, a B&M Giga. Then there's Intimidator, a B&M Hyper, and Afterburn, a hyper-intense B&M invert. Included in these top set of rides is also the earlier mentioned Copperhead Strike by Mach. Now, obviously Fury is a masterpiece, and it's accompanied by 3 extremely solid supporting rides. Now, I'm not sure if any of these are really a standout number 2 coaster, but they're all pretty close. However, after that, the park's lineup really thins out. There's the stand-up B&M Vortex, which sits right next to the plot of land that houses Nighthawk, the Vekoma Flying Dutchman. There's also Hurler, which is the Din Corporation Woody from 1994 that doesn't really offer much to the park. The bottom of the lineup has Flying Cobras, a Vekoma Boomerang, Carolina Cyclone, which is a 1980 Arrow Looper, and Carolina Gold Rusher, the Arrow Mine Train. Now, Kitty Hawk, Wilderness Run, and Woodstock Express rounded out as the family and kiddie coasters. So a bunch of mediocre clones and older rides that don't really move the needle at all. I like to think of rides in which I'm going to go back and ride a second time when I'm at the park. And honestly, not a single one of these in that set really seems to warrant re-rides, unless Nighthawk is a bit smoother than the other Flying Dutchmans I've ridden. Now, another modern thrill ride which would really stretch the depth of this lineup is needed. But before we look at what we can add, let's find where in the park we can build first. Starting near Intimidator, we have a plot of land that is now vacant, which used to be used to hold dinosaurs alive. Now, this sits at about 600 by 400 feet. This can fit a lot of almost any major additions the park is looking for. On the other side of the park, near Fury, we have what used to house the Rapids ride. Now, this lot is about 550 feet by 500 feet. The third spot is the Nighthawk plot. Now, Cedar Fair has shown a willingness and a proactive initiative to remove older maintenance nightmares like Firehawk. Now, Nighthawk sits at 460 feet by 350 feet, which isn't too much, but Vortex, which is another ride that could be receiving the axe relatively soon, could be combined. The combined plot would be a 560 foot by 500 foot area in the heart of the park. Now, with 3 major plots of land throughout the park, the higher-ups can really choose to either remove rides or simply keep them running for now and fill in the empty plots that have already been vacated. Now, when comparing Carowinds to other Cedar Fair parks and just other parks overall, the lineup is missing a few things. A modern wooden coaster and an RMC are really the 2 major gaps I see, but they could also use a B&M, something like a flyer, a dive, or a wing. And the biggest wild card for me would be adding another Mach, but this time their extreme spinner model. Overall, it's more so a lack of the pure ejector airtime and like a milder flying sensation, or a continuation to innovate that this park really needs to see. Starting off with the modern Woody, the GCI is probably the biggest contender here. All the plots are a square shape, so a ride like the Out and Back Mystic Timbers at Kings Island is probably out of the question. On the other hand, looking at a ride like Gold Striker at California's Great America, it sits on a plot that's 525 feet by 450 feet, which, if it's a custom layout, could probably fit on all 3 plots. Now, a ride of this caliber would really boost Carowinds substantially, and it opens up Hurler to receive a much needed upgrade in the future. Speaking of Hurler, the obvious option here is actually to give this dated Woody the Iron Horse treatment like they did up at King's Dominion. Twisted Timbers is an incredible ride and was actually an original clone of Hurler. Ideally, we would see RMC come in with a custom layout, especially since the parks aren't too far away, but even a clone is still a huge upgrade to the park's lineup. The other major option from RMC is an upscale Raptor model. We've seen Cedar Fair install the original up in California, and if the park is looking to save a little bit of room and maybe a little bit of money, these are insanely compact attractions. Jersey Devil at Great Adventure will be around 640 feet by 130 feet. While a little bit long for any of the plots, a custom layout could be even taller and longer on any of the plots. Now, any of these first 3 would fit in the park's need for something more like an intense ejector experience. Coming up next, we have the B&Ms. Starting with the Flyer, the park may be unwilling to add one in Nighthawk's plot due to how similar the public may view the rides, and there is one right down in Georgia. However, rides such as Manta have a plot of about 550 feet by 480 feet, which is too big for Nighthawk alone anyway. But I could see the park spinning it as an upgrade to Nighthawk and a better experience, or some kind of marketing ploy like that. What actually might be the better option is a B&M dive coaster. Now, we've seen Cedar Fair in the past build 2 record breakers in Valraven and Yukon Striker. I don't think we'll see one of that scale due to the space available, but something like Griffin, which sits on a plot of 550 feet by 425 feet, could work. Now, with Fury standing at 325 feet, the whole drop aspect may be seen as a little gimmicky, but seeing a skyline of a B&M Giga, a B&M Hyper, and a B&M Dive is never a bad idea. Just ask Canada's Wonderland. Rounding out B&M, we have the Wing model. While hang time is covered with Copperhead Strike, the B&M Wings just feel very unique to almost every other ride experience. Cedar Point in the chain features Gatekeeper, and these square plots of land could see a ride very similar to Six Flags Great America's X-Flight. That ride is only 500 feet by 300 feet, which I think could squeeze in as a replacement for only Nighthawk. Not to mention the setting over the lake in the center of the park would be an amazing centerpiece. Finally, we have the big wild card. Mach finally broke into Cedar Fair with a major addition and Copperhead Strike, but their Extreme Spinner really should be the next one they add in the chain. We are finally seeing a second one built, Ride to Happiness, over in Plopsaland in Europe. Now, Time Traveler is the original at Silver Dollar City, and it's a beloved coaster. It's about as unique as they come, and the marketing team could have a field day with the ride. At 450 feet by 300 feet for the original, the park could even upscale the ride to fit in any of the plots mentioned. Before we pick which one is really more likely, we have to check in on the money situation. This is a park with a major recent addition and was closed for all 2020. This park isn't exactly rolling in dough right now. However, I do think this park remains probably around 3rd in Cedar Fair's priority list, behind a park like Cedar Point and maybe Kings Island. Now, all of the B&Ms here are going to be pretty pricey. Flyers and Wings could run probably around $20 to $25 million, while dives tend to hit $15 to $20 million, all depending on size. RMC conversions will probably sit around the $15 million number, while the single rails sit between 12 and 15 per some rumors. GCIs can range from 10 to 20 depending on size, and the Mach Extreme Sprinters come in at a costly $26 million. Personally, I feel the RMC train is coming sooner rather than later. Hurler needs to go and change, especially with an extremely successful version already completed. Not to mention the smaller conversion could keep the price down versus some of these ground up rides. Then in a few years, hopefully a proper wooden roller coaster is made and installed here. I would expect this new RMC probably around the year 2023 at the earliest, but more likely around 2024. Now in my dream world, I think I'd love to see an RMC conversion in 2022 or 2023, a ground-up GCI in 2026, and some unique ride like a big wing or an extreme spinner, or maybe even an Axis model come around 2028. In the coming years, this park could see upwards of 4, maybe even 5 roller coasters removed, so it's going to need replacements at least for some of them. The real mystery is the state of the finances over at Cedar Fair, which no one really knows. So that's going to wrap up this edition of What's Next. Which park do you think we should tackle next, and what do you think should be added to this top-heavy park? For your daily coaster content, check in on Island Coasters on Instagram. Till next week, that's all from the shores of Island Coasters.